realized there are so many different areas where I have been chasing in my life where I needed to just stop, take a deep breath, reground myself, and really focus on my purpose instead of the desires that I had, like chasing after them. And I feel like that's been like the biggest lesson that she's had for me.
There are healers on this planet with the power to soften the suffering of mankind, yet they have remained in the recesses of the world, abused, discarded, and labeled as trash. This is The Touch of a Mustang. I am your host, Shalise Clough, and I'm here to tell the story of wild horses, Mustangs, and the humans who are discovering and sharing their gifts while working to protect their well-being and preserve their spirit, so this divine power won't be lost. Join us on this quest with the Wild Mustang. Aubrey Lawlor is a barefoot hoof care provider and equine craniosacral therapist, as well as a life coach. She's passionate about creating balance and sustainability in everything she does and helping others to do the same. She owns 2 horses, a Mustang, and a pony of the Americas, who have taken her on an incredible learning journey of the horse.
Bree, it's so great to have you here. This is our first time meeting, but I've kind of followed you on Instagram and really enjoy the content you have to share. So I'm very excited to talk with you. And I'm always even more excited when I find out that someone I enjoy following also has a Mustang.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shalise. I'm super excited to be here. I recently started a podcast on my own because I just love sharing so much. And it's also centered around my Mustang too. And she's been a really big part in my journey. So it's always really fun to connect and share that. They're definitely special.
I agree. I had a chance to listen to a little bit of your podcast after I discovered that you also do one. And there's a lot I think that we have in common, a lot of ways I could really relate to you about how Mustangs help us. To start with, let's talk about how you came to own a Mustang.
Yeah, so I had not really been into horses until after I graduated high school and got my first job. My family was not really horsey. I had grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff who were, but I never had the opportunity until I was able to provide it for myself. So with my first horse, I was leasing him and ended up having to sell him when I got married to my first husband. And after I sold him, I kind of just had this hole that was not being filled in my life that I recognized was a horse-shaped hole. So I just started looking, and ultimately my goal, I wasn't looking for a specific color or type of horse or anything like that, but I wanted to find one that I had a special connection with. And also that was fun to ride, because I'd ridden a bunch of other horses just for other people and just whenever I got the chance. And I realized that a lot of them weren't that fun to ride because they either were super choppy or had too big of movement or whatever. So I was looking for something kind of in the mid-size range, but with a smooth gait. So I actually only looked at one other horse before I found my Mustang. And when I went out to look at her and work with her and stuff, and as I learned her story, I just kind of looked into her eyes and realized this is my horse. I don't know what it was. There was just something magical or mystical in the connection that we had. And I was okay, I'm bringing her home. And literally within a week I'd had a horse again. And it was it was super special.
That's incredible. And so much of that seems so similar to my story. I felt the same thing the first time I saw my first Mustang. I just saw a picture of her, but I couldn't get her out of my head. And there was something, you're probably like me. You have lots of fun just looking at horses, no matter what, especially if you don't have one of your own. But when I saw her, it was that same kind of draw to her. And I don't know if you feel similar to that, but for me, I really feel like there was almost a divine hand at work that kind of put us together because she came in to life at a time when she helped me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I almost feel we knew each other before this life. And I don't know how much I believe in reincarnation and stuff. I've been on kind of a weird spiritual journey recently, but I definitely believe that something about her soul and my soul energetically just clicked, and that we were meant to come together for a reason, for something bigger than both of us. And it's been really beautiful to just follow that thread and like just go on this journey with her. So it's cool that you also feel the same way, because I've heard a lot of other Mustang trainers and owners say the same thing.
Love that. I really do think that there's things meant for us in this life, and for me, and it sounds like for you, Mustangs seem to be one of those things. So what is her story? Where did she come from, and how did you end up finding her?
Yeah, so she is from Winter Ridge, Utah, which this HMA is closed now. There are no horses. And they closed it in 2011, which is when she was gathered. So her brand also says 2011 on it, and I'm not sure if she was born out on the range or if she was born in holding and then given a brand. And she lived there for about like 6 or 7 years before being pulled out by a tip trainer. I'm from Arizona, and there's a really like prominent tip trainer who has a storefront down there who like basically they call her the Mustang enabler. She like gets everybody Mustangs.
She's helping us all find our horse.
Yeah, so she pulled her out and gifted her to another tip trainer and was like, you need this horse. So she ended up competing with her. This was in 2017 or 2018. And they competed, and they actually won reserve champion for their freestyle Liberty like routine, which was super cool. And then she ended up being like, it gets a little bit hairy right there because I'm not sure like the entire details and stuff, but she either ended up being adopted out to somebody or she went to another trainer and then got adopted out. So she was with that person, the like adopter, for probably about a year before she went back to the trainer that I got her from. And the reason why they like sent her back was because they were having a hard time catching her, which was one of the biggest issues that we had when I brought her home. But come to find out, it's because she's got all of these other like physical and emotional issues that we've had to like kind of go back and unwind with all of like the things that I have learned about horses. So yeah, that's a little bit of her story, at least as far as I know.
I know you're here because you love horses and probably also personal development. Give Aubrey Lawlor's podcast a listen. It's called This Is the Ride, and it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And so how has that journey been since she's been with you? I know that you kind of said, like me, your journey corresponded a lot with life and things that happen in life. How did that all unfold, and how did you learn those things about her that have really led into the work that you do now?
Yeah, so it's really fascinating to me to like look back on it, because like some of the same themes have come up that I've finally like realized and been able to integrate like very recently within the last few months. But like when I first got her, one of the biggest issues was the not being able to be caught and to be handled, especially for like hoof care and the vet and like anything else that I wanted.
All the super important things that
yeah, like,
you really feel like my horse needs to know this at least. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I then started to pursue a little bit of like positive reinforcement training just to kind of like gain her trust and prove to her like that I'm someone that wants to work with her and like that it's be good to partner with a human and that it's not all bad. And at the time, like shortly after I got her, at the time I was going through an equine science program, and like this was like all like very, very close together. And I ended up hiring this amazing barefoot trimmer in the area who was known for being able to work with difficult horses and not like beat up on them and stuff. So I went through a little bit of that program, learned a lot about anatomy and hoof care and like other like basic things about horses, like evolution and all of that. And my farrier, he was so amazing. He was always like, you should learn how to do it yourself. And like with all your learning about the hoof, like you should just do her yourself, because she clearly trusts you way more than she trusts anyone else. Yeah. So I then started maintaining her feet, like just like between trim cycles. And then at the time I was working at another barn that did hippotherapy for disabled children, and like overseeing like the care of the horses and stuff. I realized like what their farrier was doing was like not helping them, especially to go out and do their job, because like hippotherapy horse is like really special in that their movement impacts like the children, so then they can go on and live a better, like healthier life.
Yeah. Can you just describe for everybody what hippotherapy is for anyone who might not know?
Yeah. So hippotherapy is when like a speech language pathologist, an occupational therapist, or physical therapist uses a horse's movements to integrate like a client's therapy better. So it can help with like speech problems, it can help with problem solving, or even like movement and balance itself because of the way that horses hold us, like physically and emotionally.
So you were seeing these horses that maybe needed something different than what they were getting.
Yeah, because it was interesting. They were all barefoot, but like their trims were not a barefoot trim, which I had realized like the importance and the difference between a barefoot trim and a flat pasture trim that a lot of shoers will do. And I was like, okay, well, if that guy can go out and have like a full clientele, I can at least go out and help some client horses and like make some money. Because at the time I was still in school and like didn't have a career planned out or anything. And that was when I started taking on clients. So it was kind of like a really beautiful gift, I think, from Dot, to be able to take that and be like, oh, I learned how to maintain your feet and work with a difficult horse, and I can take that out and help other horses as well.
That's something Mustangs can really do for us, is kind of push us to our to see more of our potential than we see on our own. I listened to a training, I think it was from LinkedIn, and it talked about this captain who's very prominent now. She's a woman, like a captain of a ship, and she kind of had the same experience where she saw a captain who was just not very great, and she thought, if he can do it, I can do it too. And now she's, one of the top in her field. And I also think it's really cool that your trimmer encouraged you to do it, because, man, to have somebody that kind of lets you know, like, you're capable of doing this, and now you do this for your profession, right? Or for part of your profession.
Yeah. Which leads me to kind of like the other part. It's kind of fun. I've got many things that I have like been able to do and incorporate into my work to be able to better support horses, and now they're humans too. So I kind of had noticed very early on with Dot that she didn't move properly. Like there was just something off. So then I would went to the vet out and be like, what do you see? And they're like, well, she's not showing any like signs of lameness with deflection. She's just a little crooked, and like give her bute for a few days and she'll be fine. And I kind of was like, I don't really accept that for an answer. Like that doesn't align with what I think is happening with her. So I continued to keep asking that question. As we were riding and doing groundwork, I'm like, okay, why is she always like somewhat off to one side? Like it's not lameness, but she's not completely sound or being like as comfortable in her body as I thought that she should have been. So I started to like jump down the rabbit hole of like biomechanics and like really like recognizing what it looks like when a horse is carrying themselves properly with true self-carriage, as opposed to like being forced with like external devices or even like being hypermobile and stuff. And that kind of like led me to like pursue more of like the bodywork type stuff. So I actually started studying myofascial lines, which there's like a textbook. It's like the equine myofascial lines, and I read that whole thing like probably multiple times. When wow. It's very like anatomy heavy textbook, so I had to like.
It sounds like it.
I had to like really dive in, but like as I realized and read through the text in the book, that it was corroborating everything that I was seeing in Dot and in my client horses, because I realized a lot of my client horses weren't able to stand well for trims because of a balance issue or because of a pain issue. So I was like, this horse is not being naughty. Like when they're yanking their foot away, it's because they literally can't stand like longer than 30 seconds or whatever the case was with them. So I didn't like know where to go from that point. I was like, okay, I know what's happening, but I don't know like what modality that I want to provide to be able to help my clients like thrive and feel better in their bodies, especially for hoof care, but also riding and just being a horse. like
Mm-hmm.
overall having like a better balance and like quality of soundness for the rest of their lives. And this actually led into like the craniosacral therapy in a really beautiful way, because I ended up in a pretty bad car accident at the end of 2022, and I was rear-ended. So it gave me whiplash, and it actually herniated one of my discs also. So I was having a hard time with traditional chiropractic, and then they were doing like acupuncture and fascia scraping and everything, because my body basically wanted to like clamp down on all of it to protect me, which I'd had a lot of like physical and emotional issues that led to that as well. And someone suggested I see a craniosacral therapist. So I was like, okay, we'll go see what this is about. Like, it's supposedly soft touch and helps restore your spinal cord back to normal function. And as I did that, I started to learn more, and I was like, oh, this is making my body feel so much better. And you can do this for horses too, which was like super fascinating, like mind blowing to me, because I'd already been down the rabbit hole of like fascia and like understanding that the body is an integrated unit instead of just little like pieces and parts.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
seeing it like a whole. So with the cranial work, like the main function or the main goal is to restore the function of the spinal cord, which moves spinal fluids back and forth from the cranium to the sacrum, and it helps the nervous system communicate from the body to the brain and vice versa. So I ended up literally probably, how many months was it? Like 3 or 4 months after my accident. I wasn't working because like trimming was really hard on my back at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Recovering from whiplash and stuff. I wasn't working, but I decided to hop on a plane and fly to Texas and start my craniosacral like certification, because I was like, okay, this is the next best thing. And at that point, I didn't know if I would be able to recover back to full capacity with trimming because of how difficult it is on your body.
Yeah, it is very difficult. Yeah.
And I'm not ever going to not work with horses. Like, I think even when I'm retired, I'll probably still be working with horses. So
yeah,
I needed to have something else to do with like my time and my drive to help like the animals. So flew out to Texas and started my certification with Amy Williams. Her business is Peak Performance Equine Wellness and Therapy, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah. Amy Williams, she started her.
We can note it in the notes too.
And so I just like dove right in and started to really like piece together like, okay, when I'm working on a horse, like maybe their toes are too long, and it could actually be a body problem or it could be a teeth problem, because if one part of the body is not balanced, it translates to the rest of the body through the fascia. So I found it like a really beautiful way to like incorporate balance in both the body and the feet for my client horses, and started seeing like super amazing results.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. That's something that seems universal across humans and horses, is we'll often compartmentalize different things without realizing that everything affects everything else. You know, what we eat affects how we feel, which affects how we behave, and how we think affects the action that we take. So it's really interesting to see how you were able to pinpoint that in horses, to see how it impacted them and to make changes for the better.
Yeah. I think it's super fascinating too. Like I always like tell my clients, because this blows my mind, but the cranial bones, like they move to be able to like move the spinal cord back and forth very slightly, but as a therapist you can feel them, like if they're able to move properly. But if they're out of balance, the pelvis will mirror them. So like say one side of the skull is up on the right, the pelvis is automatically going to be further forward on the left to kind of like offset that. So that was what I was feeling in Dot. She has a very like, I feel like common pattern of like wanting to rotate toward one side, and then the pelvis kind of like mirrors that on the opposite. So she was much stronger on her left side, like in a bend, especially like riding and cantering, like her left lead is like way stronger and easier for her to get than the right side because of the balance that she was having, like balance issues that she was having.
And so is this something that you continually do with horses? Do you do it once and then a lot of times that helps them to adjust to where they need to be? How does that look if you go and see an animal that you're helping?
Yeah, it really depends. I like to see them at least 3 times within like probably like a 3 to 4 month period when starting out, just to make sure we really work the kinks out. And then like based on what their individual patterns are, if we're like still dealing with stuff, we'll look into like the feet and the teeth as well, and tack fit and rider balance, and making sure that like my work is staying put because they're staying balanced and not because of an external issue or whatever the case may be. But I have had a lot of people who do one session and see really good results, and then I don't hear back from them until like 6 to 8 months later, because they're like, oh, they started being bad again. When I'm like, we could have maintained this the whole time.
Yeah. And is it often present itself in behavioral changes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So like, I feel like one of the biggest like external like symptoms of a horse having cranial problems is actually nervous system issues. So like becoming more spooky, or like more head shy or ear shy, like anything involved with like the head and like the nervous system is impacted directly by the balance in the cranium.
And so do you think, is it that the balance in the cranium gets thrown off, or is it that the environment creates that nervousness, which then throws off the balance in the cranium?
So both.
Both?
It's
both
like
ways?
Yeah. Like we don't really know why cranial shears happen and like why the balance gets off, but like the more I've studied and stuff, I've read a lot of human craniosacral therapy resources and stuff, like because we're such an integrated unit as a being, like it's very possible that like one or the other came first. It's kind of a chicken and egg situation. Same thing with like hoof balance and body balance.
So it could really be either way. So us as humans, when we take these horses trying to get them to do what we want, we could be the cause of them having even physical struggles if we're not approaching it in a mindful manner for them.
Yes, absolutely. And then sometimes in other cases, they present with physical struggles and we're not necessarily aware or maybe even equipped to deal with them, and then we can make them worse.
Yeah. It's really interesting how you kind of went step by step into where you are now. And I think the other piece to this that you talk about a lot on your podcast and stuff is the human element of it, and some of the things that you learned maybe through Dot as you were going through experiences in your life. And so how does that all come into play?
Yeah, so with that piece, like I discovered like mindset / life coaching early on in my marriage to my first husband, like right around when I bought Dot, because basically 3 months in, he told me that he didn't want to be married anymore. And that was really difficult. Like I didn't know what to do with that. And I was like, okay, like how can I fix it? Like what's wrong? Like we can work this out. Like let's go to counseling or therapy or something. And he was like super adamant that like, no, you're the problem, so you need to fix it. And like being as young as I was 20 when we got married. Being as young as I was, I believed him. And then I went and searched for answers. So that led me to stumble upon this life coach. Her name is Jody Moore, and she has a podcast called Better Than Happy. And I just started listening and kind of like binge listening to it as I was working in the job I was in at the time. I wasn't even trimming yet, but I started to like just consume all of this information on like self-help and self-development, and really learned like the difference between having like a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and like being able to not like control your reality, but like get better results out of your life through changing what you're thinking and integrating your feelings. And so I ended up working with my coach. I still work with her now. I've worked with her on and off since then. But I started working with my coach because I really wanted to dive into my relationship and like figure it out. Like for me, it was like, it's like, this is it or nothing, like with marriage. Cause like, I don't really want to go out and find someone else. Like I'd like to keep this relationship. So, and I worked with her for, I think 8 weeks the very first time. And it blew my life like wide open. Like we went in and I was like, okay, we need to work on my relationship. And then we ended up working on like everything but my relationship. So we worked on like my self-confidence and my ability to like speak my truth without feeling shut down, and being able to talk to like authority figures like doctors and my bosses, and even like people who are like much older than me who maybe had more authority over me. And my relationship with like money, and my relationship with imposter syndrome, because like I was right at the start of my trimming career, and I was like, okay, I'm an apprentice for like a year before I take on clients. And my coach worked me through that, because she's like, no, you're already skilled enough. Like your mentors are giving you clients, so it's time to take clients. And it like really had a huge impact on me as a person. And as I realized, like working with my coach and stuff, I saw there were so many ways that I was getting in the relationship between myself and Dot and my other mare, Francis. So then I started to take that to myself and be like, okay, like what am I doing that's creating what's happening in our relationship, and how can I change that instead of feeling stuck? Because I felt very stuck for a long time with Dot being so like standoffish and not wanting to be caught or interacted with. And I
think Mustangs are really good at that, at being like, hey, hold on, we're not just skipping this over. This is something we got to look at. Yeah,
she's like, you don't even feel safe in your body, and I don't feel safe around you, so I'm going to get over there. And it took me forever to realize that, like up until like the end of 2023, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to work on this myself. And as I started to dive in, I talked to my coach about it, and she's like, this sounds like something that you would be really good at helping other people with. Again, with how my trimmer was like, you should do this. Like, you should do this. And she's like, I will mentor you so that you can start coaching and making more of an impact on even like the horse people in your life, not just the horses. Because like, again, you're seeing a pattern where sometimes you've done everything you can with a client horse to help them feel comfortable and safe in their body and to get their feet done. And it's still not working. Like, why is that the case? And it's most of the time because the human side needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is not talked about enough. There's a lot of talk about bits and training tools and the process, but a lot of times that human element, how are you approaching the horse? What are you bringing to this relationship? Gets left out, and we just quickly go to the horse to say, like, what's wrong with it? I need a trainer to fix this for me, all those kind of things. So I love that you're taking half the element of anyone who has a horse and working on both sides of those halves.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Stacey Westfall developed like a concept that I really like and use in my coaching. And it's like this little like grid or like a T. And like in each category, we have the rider's mind and the rider's body, and then we have the horse's mind and the horse's body. So like, if one of those pieces isn't functioning properly, then your relationship with your horse is not going to be optimal, whatever you're doing with them.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing with Mustangs is a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are really hyper-tuned to how the human's feeling. They're very aware of the feelings that are surrounding them. And that was definitely something that took me off guard, because a lot of other horses, we can just kind of make them do what we want them to do. And for my Mustang, that wasn't the case. She was kind of the same as you experienced with Dot, where she's like, you got to figure some other stuff out before I'm going to be a partner in this adventure you want to go.
Yeah, I think it's so incredible, like being a part of that and recognizing that it's happening with a Mustang. Like it's part of like their magic, because they're so in tune with the world around them, because they have to be.
Yeah.
And they're like, you would not survive out in a herd with like all of these predators.
I'm getting as far away from you as I can because you're a liability.
Yeah. Like because that's one of my Mustang's questions to me as I've been like following more intuitive stuff and learning how to like do animal communication and channeling. One of her questions to me has been like, why do you expect me to feel safe around you when you don't feel safe yourself?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel good, and I want you to slow down and make sure you're feeling safe before you ask me to do anything, because like I can't tolerate it, basically.
Yeah. That's a realization I had with my Mustang too, is I was feeding her my anxiety like crazy. So of course she couldn't look to me as a leader, because I was, it's that feedback that I was scared she was going to explode or, kick out at me. And so she's like, well, why are you terrified? Like, I don't want to go anywhere with you. You look like you're walking into danger. So it's interesting how it can really impact them.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing though. Like, horses are definitely my biggest teachers, like especially with trimming and body work and even the mindset work, in that all they want is to feel safe and comfortable. And that's usually what we want too. But like, as humans with human brains, we tend to complicate it so much just by like thinking about it, or like telling ourselves that we should feel a certain way even if we don't, and not recognizing that.
Yeah.
So that piece of the puzzle has been like really cool to integrate for myself.
Yeah. And it is hard because we have so many outside influences. We have so much information constantly flowing into our lives and are surrounded with so much stimuli. It is really hard to get more to where the horses are, where it's just a pure awareness and clarity. But I think for me, at least, just spending time with them offloads a lot of that burden of culture, society, information, technology, all those things.
Yeah, I've definitely found that too. Like, even before like I started on my journey with like my career and stuff, I would spend a lot of time with my horse, just like brushing his mane while he was eating or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it made me feel so much better. And I just remember one time, like, so my great grandpa, like growing up, he had horses, but they always had a job, and like they were like doing something important for furthering their humans' lives. And he just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I had a horse that was just like a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, he has a job still.
I just remember my grandma being like, what if their job is therapy? They're so special like that.
I agree. It really just does something to you. And I especially think that's true if you have that draw to horses. But even for people who maybe thought they would never end up participating with horses, it really does something just being in their presence and entering their world a little more than you otherwise would.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating, because recently, like, my dad has been getting into horses, and he was like never that interested, but he's kind of gone down the rabbit hole too, and it's always been fun to like connect with him. We don't like talk a lot, but like we'll connect and talk about what he's been working with the horses and stuff. And he'll be like, I learned this today, and isn't that so amazing? Like, yeah, like that's why I love them so much. Like, this is amazing.
You're like, finally someone sees. It's really cool to be able to kind of come to that, because you said as a kid it wasn't something your family was really interested in or maybe even supportive of.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely not. Like I think they thought it was just a phase, but they probably have realized by now that it's not.
Yeah, she's not getting out of it.
No.
This is still going. So you talk about how horses have taught you some lessons, and I know for me, horses have been a huge part of healing. What is maybe some lessons or healing that they've provided or given you?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like they've kind of driven all of my healing and my process and journey, because like Dot led me into like learning more about the body and learning more about my mindset and also my relationship. Like, I feel like she's been like this great, like divining rod on what is meant for me in my life and what is not. Mm-hmm. And like, I feel like along the way, I've like picked up so many different things. Like, I've been able to like be more grounded and be like more authentic to my true self, instead of wearing a mask or feeling like other people are judging me, and really like living out of like imposter syndrome instead of my true authentic self. and also like having even just a drive and a motivation to learn more. Like I'm never gonna like stop learning or like stop working on myself on this journey. And I have a feeling that she's gonna keep working on me like that too. Like especially with the channeling. I just finished like an animal soul channeling course last night. And like it's really, really hard to like become in tune intuitively with your own animals because they're so attached to like your heart space. But like I felt like with this channeling I was able to like really step back and be objective enough to like listen to her side and actually get information from her. And what she told me, and I realized that this is something that I wasn't doing with just her but like the rest of my life, but she told me that I was chasing her too much, and that was what was pushing her away because like energetically she's like, oh, this is too much, like you're being too needy and I don't feel safe, I don't like it, like just calm down and be your grounded self, and I want to be with you that way. And I realized there are so many different areas where I have been chasing in my life where I needed to just like stop, take a deep breath, and like reground myself and like really focus on my purpose instead of like the desires that I had after them. And I feel like that's been like the biggest lesson that she's had for me, like overall.
And those are definitely lessons that resonate with me, but I feel like those are maybe something that, and I guess I can't speak for everyone, but it seems almost like a lot of those feelings of maybe not being capable or not recognizing our potential are pretty typical with a lot of women. And the other thing that I also found for myself is I had to really learn how to let go of the outcome.
Yes.
And that was huge for me to be able to be okay with like something not turning out the way it did. We have some similarities, which I talked a little bit about in the first podcast, just struggles in my personal relationships and marriage. And a big turning point for me was when, you know, I decided I would still do what I felt was right, what I wanted to do. But beyond that, like that was all I could control. I couldn't try and control other people and get to that point where, you know, we can let go, whether it's a relationship, which we can't always control, and even maybe the outcomes that we see with our horses.
Yeah, like 100%. And the really cool thing is, I feel like what's made me an effective trimmer is that I've been able to live in that state of detachment with my client horses. And for some reason, it always turns out I'm never like attached to like getting a foot done. Like if they're not comfortable with me standing within 5 feet of them, that's what we're going to work on that day. But like I realized that like more that I let go, the easier it was for the animals to trust me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I don't need you to do anything for me. I just need you to tell me how you feel and we'll have a conversation. As opposed to just coming in like larger than life and like, you're going to let me do all 4 right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we go into our horses, and I think anything we do with our horses reflects in our everyday life, human interactions. A lot of times we go in with an agenda, with something specific we want done. And I can just imagine as a horse, like you're just sitting there hanging out. Like, what is it like for your person to come in and they're like, all right, this is what we're going to do, compared to, as you say, kind of having a conversation, seeing how you're feeling, asking more than demanding or forcing, and what a difference that makes. Have you seen, you kind of already said you saw that in horsemanship where the outcomes tended to be better. Is that something that also flowed over into your personal life?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like to your point with your relationship too. I also came to that realization like very, very close to my divorce. And I feel like it was kind of like the decisive factor for the ending of that relationship. But I ended up telling my ex-husband, like, I just decided that I'm going to be happy whether you stay or you leave. Like I'm going to stay here. I'm committed to this relationship as long as you still want to be here.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to be happy and take charge of my own feelings and my own results in life. And it was really interesting to see how he just kind of like fell away after that.
Yeah.
Like the second I stopped trying, like what wasn't working for me just fell away.
Yeah. And I think that's a really hard thing to do, to kind of put that out there and to say, I'm going to be okay with whatever happens. But at the same time, it gives us so much power, I would say, to just know we don't have to be a victim of our circumstances, especially or even when life doesn't go the way we thought it would go.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the time, the most hurt that we have in life is because we're so attached to the way that things should be that we make it mean horrible things about ourselves or about our lives or even like destiny that end up hurting us way more than just taking a deep breath and having acceptance and surrendering to what's happening, because everything that happens in life is for us. It's not happening to us. So when you can like really step into that surrender, like there's really nothing that anyone else can do that can hurt you more than you let them at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. And we create a lot of struggle becoming too attached to a certain outcome. And also, as we maybe look more outside ourselves for the answers instead of focusing on the really the only answer we can give, which is something that comes internally, something that's within ourselves. We can't, just like I'm sure you've learned, you can't force a Mustang to do something against their will. Like they will always win against one person if that's what they want to do. And same thing with life. There are so many things we can't force, but man, will we try hard to force it and struggle against it so badly just because we want it to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I feel like I'm always coming back to this little like adage like from the Buddha about the arrows, and he just talks about how like true pain is when bad things happen to us. So say you get shot with an arrow, and then like the secondary pain that you have a choice in is what you choose to make that mean. So like leaving the arrow in and like kind of like
wiggling it around.
Yeah, forcing your own suffering. Where it's like
Yeah.
like bad things are going to happen to us no matter what, but the way that we choose to respond to them instead of react to them can make all the difference. Like our outlook on life.
We have a lot of ability to affect the suffering, and a lot of times most of the suffering is something that's in our mind, the way we're choosing to view the situation, and just really holding on to that suffering. Something that I really found for myself, like I can hang on to it and be so sad about it and sit there and ruminate about how things should be different or people should act differently, or I can let go and, as you said, see what life has for you instead of trying to tell life what it should be for you.
Yeah. One of my favorite coaching questions to ask people is like, what is the blessing behind this suffering? Or like, what is the gift?
Yeah.
Like really like kind of makes you have to backtrack in your brain and be like, okay, like, yeah, I went through a pretty painful divorce, like, and I was super young and didn't know how to like be in a relationship, but I am now in like an amazing, loving, supporting partnership that I wouldn't have been able to like navigate without having a previous experience that showed me what I didn't want. So that's been like a huge gift in my life. And I don't think if I had the choice to like go back and change it, I wouldn't, because where I'm at is so much more, like it's so much more meaningful because of the suffering.
And it's really hard to even have faith in that when you're in the middle of something. But why not just imagine the best, because we don't know the future. So we can either create a lot more suffering by worrying about a future we don't know about and focusing on things we can't change in our present moment, or we can, as we've talked about, let go, let things unfold the way they're supposed to. And I don't think that means that you're just, you're no more invested in your life. It's just a different way. You're invested more in your internal life than the external, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that reminds me a lot of like what I've been realizing as I've tapped into more of my intuitive abilities, and that is that time is not linear like we think it is. So like with like quantum mechanics and stuff, we can actually draw things to us by being a certain way and thinking a certain way right now that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise had. And it's because if you're experiencing the present moment exactly as it is, you can almost like step into another portal where you have all of these options available to you, where you take your power back and really have a choice. And like yeah, I can't change the past and I can't change the future. Like the future is not even happening yet, but I can change right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're kind of coming close to time. We talked a little bit about you doing a life coach session. This is something that you do for your job, right? So I thought it would be good, you know, maybe anyone who's interested in it can kind of get a taste of what they would maybe get if they go to you to do some life coaching.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether you're struggling with something in particular or just have goals you're working to achieve, it can be invaluable to have a third party give you strategies and ideas. Bree offers life coaching, which can serve you in just that way. She's a wealth of knowledge that can help you elevate your life.
What's coming up for you right now, like at the moment?
I don't know at the moment, but definitely for today, like I'm a little harried because there's this stuff I really want to work on. And I kind of mentioned this to you before. There's stuff I really want to work on, the things, you know, I love horses. I really love doing this podcast. And then there's all these other things that I have to do, all the responsibilities that are part of my life.
Yeah. So like you said, like harried. So like with that emotion, where do you like feel that in your body when you start to think about being like so overwhelmed with all of the things happening?
I mean, probably tension, I would say kind of right here in my upper body.
Yeah. Do you feel kind of like you kind of tend to like close down a little bit?
Yeah, probably. As I open up, I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because like with overwhelm, we tend to like feel like we're carrying the world on our shoulders. So then we'll automatically like collapse in and to like feel all this tension right there. So what do you end up doing? Like, what sort of actions do you do when you start feeling this way?
How do I behave?
Yeah.
Not well. I get stressed and frustrated, probably.
Yeah. Do you end up like losing your patience on like your family or your horses or whoever's in your vicinity?
Yeah, for sure. Probably kids most often kind of get the blunt of that.
Yeah. So what do you think like the result of believing that you have too much stuff on your plate is in your life?
The result of believing that there's too much stuff on my plate. It probably does put me in a bit more of a frantic state. Well, I would say it probably goes two ways, where I'm either frustrated and stressed and trying to like really hurry and get things done and make sure everything logistically lines up with all the kids and things like that. Or the other way, I would say that it sometimes manifests if I do have a downtime, I kind of blow that time and just zone out for a little bit, maybe do something that doesn't have much value.
Yeah. And like, do you usually tend to like tell yourself you should be doing something else when you have time?
Always.
Yeah. So the thing about like overwhelm and shoulding yourself is like I feel like in our society and stuff, we tend to live out of like fight or flight because we're trying to like get so much done and be so productive. And by the time we get to like the end of our day when maybe we do have free time, all we want to do is sit in front of the TV or our phone and zone out, or maybe eat something or online shop or whatever. And in like coaching terms, they call this buffering. And usually like buffering, like it can last for a really long time or it can last for a really short time. But when we do that, we're trying to actively avoid a problem whilst also beating ourselves up for not solving that problem. So it's not really productive and it doesn't feel very good. I feel like one of the most common and painful situations that like everybody goes through, like it's kind of a byproduct of having a human brain in a world where we value productivity over everything else. Yeah. So I feel like one of the best ways to like really resolve that is to like look inside and It's like you're already self-aware of the problem. So like if it does come up again, like one, to have grace for yourself, because we don't want to beat ourselves up for like now I'm shooting myself and like thinking about your thinking, like metacognition.
Yeah.
And then it makes it worse. Like first we want to have grace for ourselves and realize like, okay, we're living in a world that's not really made for us to be peaceful, maybe in the past, but not how our society is today. And recognizing like, okay, I'm a human in a world that's not made for me anymore. And then being able to like really feel into that and say, okay, like what am I actually avoiding right now? Like obviously there's some discomfort, and that's why I want to go buffer away all of my feelings and not look at it, which like can like kind of be a band-aid.
Yeah.
Like you feel good for a little bit, but then it doesn't make the problem.
Yeah. It gives you kind of a poor release, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And like really being able to like look inside and recognize like where the overwhelm stems from. So like what thoughts do you usually think when you're feeling like really harried and overwhelmed?
Okay, so about 2 years ago, we moved up to the mountains, so we live pretty remotely now. And I love just being home in the mountains doing nothing. I have 6 kids who are 3, 4 of them are teenage age. And they're quite the opposite, you know, they're wanting to be involved and be around friends. And so there's this, I guess, struggle, and it's become easier with some of them because they drive now, so they can go do their own thing. But there's this struggle between kind of just wanting to stay where I feel peaceful and work on the things I need to do versus having them involved in things that are either important to them or, you know, good activities. We're pretty mindful of our activities, and I would say compared to a lot of people, we don't do a lot, but still feeling like, you know, they need to have friends and activities and develop passions. And that's kind of my job, is to provide that for them and take them to it. And so it's that disconnect between like, I just want to stay home and feeling this responsibility towards them and what their needs are.
Yeah. So do you feel like there's a need that you're not meeting for yourself?
I feel like there probably is, and it's probably met sometimes, but not enough probably. And then a lot of times the things I know are going to help me kind of give me the energy, restoration that I need, I talk myself out of doing, like maybe not going out with the horses because it's cold, or not going hiking because the morning got away from me, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so interesting that like this happens with a lot of people, but we're so blocked from doing the things that rejuvenate us.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's like, oh, I know this will help me, but like, sometimes we almost kind of feel good sitting in our overwhelm. Like we become really attached to like the stories that we have, like this is how life goes. And being able to like see into a different reality where maybe it's not as hard to go out and do things that make you feel better, or even like having something that's even smaller that brings you that rejuvenation. Like I have a whole list of like things that I can do that recharge my battery, and then also lists of things that like drain my battery. And the charges is much smaller, but I made sure to incorporate like smaller things. Like even if you have to literally like go in your closet and just do like a 5-minute grounding meditation to like help you return to center and realize like, okay, it's okay if I don't do anything else that makes me feel better, as long as I can come back to center and feel not so like frazzled anymore. I think that's helpful.
Yeah. That's definitely something I'll have to try and get some stuff in there better. So what advice do you have maybe for avoiding, or maybe just what would you say about those things we do for release that aren't necessarily restorative, almost draining? I would say like social media is one of these, TV, all those things that maybe are really easy to get sucked into and feel good while we're doing it, but afterwards didn't do anything to help us.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is the awareness piece. Like being able to come back into your body and recognize and name your emotions helps a lot, because the more we resist, the bigger they get. Like I like to explain it like holding a beach ball underwater at the beach, and then it like smacks you in the face when you let go of it.
Yeah, when you pop it up.
Yeah, because instead of just letting it be there, we resist so hard and like actively resist sometimes. So the biggest piece is awareness, and then recognizing like our emotions are messengers for us. So when we're able to like kind of let them in, like, okay, like you're safe here, like it's okay to be here. What is the message that you have for me? You often discover where your needs aren't being met. So like, like sadness is one that I feel like I have been good friends with, like in my life, and recently realized like the message that my sadness had for me, and like I like went and researched it too afterwards to see if that aligned. And the message that sadness usually holds is that we need comfort, or we need to be holding ourselves more. So like if we have been too rough with ourselves, or like the things going on around us have been feeling like too much, we have to take that time to really like recenter ourselves and hold ourselves. It's almost like reparenting, where you're like, you would never tell a child like, shut up, go watch TV when you're crying, like to make you feel better. Like instead you would hug them and say, what's wrong? Like, how can I help you? And comfort them and help them move through the wave of the emotion instead of holding it back.
Yeah. And so something, this is a little off track, but something I've been thinking a lot about is, do you think that other people have any responsibility for our emotions? In that, I know a lot of us struggle because maybe we felt our parents didn't do something they should do, or maybe some of those deeper relationships, husband, wife, should be doing something specific for us. Do you think that they do have any responsibility for our emotional life? Because a lot of times I think we depend on, and I'm speaking from my experience, depend on my emotions to be fixed or resolved by them. Maybe doing something different or reacting in a certain way. If this would kind of be seen like someone saw that I was sad and they just ignored it type of thing. Where does that responsibility lay, do you think?
I think the responsibility is personal, which is kind of a controversial topic. I've made a lot of people upset in my life for saying that. But I do believe it rests fully on us, because our perspective is our own, and it's formed by like the societal programming that we have, our early relationships with our families and with like friends and teachers. And like no one person is going to have the same perspective of a situation, even if they came from a completely like identical socioeconomic, religious, like family background, because we are all unique. And when we take responsibility for our own emotions, it doesn't mean that we don't take responsibility for like our actions. Like, of course, we don't want to do something that we think might hurt somebody else just because they're responsible for their own feelings.
Yeah.
But taking on that responsibility kind of takes the burden and stress off of our relationships. Because like when we expect our spouse to be in a certain mood for us to be happy, we're giving all of our power away instead of saying, okay, what can I do to help myself feel happy in this moment right now? And then go connect with them.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think it is a very tricky balance to walk, I would say, because in relationships, you know, you want them to be good. You certainly want people around you that care about you. But on the other hand, it's, and I imagine people got mad about you saying it because it's a hard reality to grasp, that maybe you're giving away power where it's a place where you should be taking it back and nurturing your emotional well-being and taking steps to be more emotionally centered or whole, or however you want to put it.
Yeah, like 100%. And I feel like it's been the most valuable work that I've done in my life. And that's why I love sharing that with others so much, like through everything that I do, but especially the coaching, because it's like this huge gift. It's like, I'm responsible for me. I don't have to worry about anything else.
Right. And I think it's really good to get an outside perspective, because it's hard to see the things that we're in the middle of, which I think can be a real benefit. And I know some therapies and things focus on like talk therapy. I think it's really beneficial when we're maybe not so focused on what happened, but what we do with it now and how we're reacting now. So I think the work you do is super important. And if people are wanting to take advantage of any of the many things that you do, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is probably the best way. It's at Sustainably Balanced Equine. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't use it as much. It's at Sustainably Balanced Equine LLC.
Okay.
And then also my Instagram, my email is sustainablybalancedequine@gmail.com for like any inquiries and stuff. But definitely Instagram. And then also my podcast is Enjoy the Ride Podcast. It is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and it's really good. I would recommend everyone listen to it. I know for me, I'm always looking for content that includes horses and I don't know if we want to call it psychology or just mindset, stuff like that. And I think that's what your podcast really kind of takes and runs with. So it's definitely something I'd recommend. We'll put links for everything in the description for the podcast. Just to close, what closing advice for you would you have for anyone either who and you can take whatever angle on you want, is maybe adopting a Mustang, has a Mustang, or even just might be struggling with something particular in their life right now?
That's a good question. I think like my biggest advice would be to have an open mind, like with whatever comes up, like whether it's like a situational thing with your Mustang or like even in your relationships with other people, like take it all with a grain of salt and like really look at your brain and recognize where you make things mean like different things that may not be like supportive or beneficial for you, and to like learn how to start to shift that to then create a mindset that's like super powerful and also allows you to connect better with the other people and horses in your life.
Yeah. I love that. And it sounds like that's something that you could definitely help people to do with the work that you do.
Yeah.
If that's something they're looking for some help with. Well, Bree, thank you so much for coming on and for your time and sharing your story and the many things you learn. I'm definitely going to keep following you on Instagram. I'm going to be adding your podcast into the things to listen to. And I just really appreciate your time and coming on here and supporting this and talking about Mustangs and all the amazing things that they can do for our life.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us and learning about horses that heal and the humans who help them. We hope you'll continue with us on this journey. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite platform and follow The Touch of a Mustang on any of the major social media outlets. Please share with your friends, anyone who loves horses, or anyone who might be struggling and could benefit from this message. If you have felt the healing power of horses or help them in their divinely appointed mission, please reach out. We want to hear your story. As we say goodbye, always remember that the horse is always there to help you heal.